With that being said, we still want to know what's hot with our fashions. And if for some reason there's some technical difficulties coming through, just bear with us. We'll have them ready in just a second. We are in the process of, I guess this is Facebook Live. So Dana, are you there? Okay, so we know that Dana will be back. So not sure what you guys may be looking at right now, but just give us a second and we will have it. Says shortly.
Yes.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. We are just, I should be able to see you momentarily.
Okay.
It's a beautiful day outside. If you haven't had a chance to go out, do so. It's hot and humid. And if that's not your kind of weather, you better stay inside with cool AC. Since we're learning what the new norm is for us, whether you're working from home, as still many of us are, you are, I'm certain, like myself, inundated with Zoom video meetings and calls. We're still figuring things out, learning where we are and what we're trying to do. But just so that you know, we have been bringing you experts from the very beginning, whether we were all up in your medical business, whether we were giving you the blueprint, it doesn't matter. Things have changed. One of our experts has been with us since we started the Zoom video conferences, and that's Mrs. Dana Holmes Jenkins. Welcome to Let's Talk Business with SJC, the fourth hour of our show.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Hey,
good
Dana.
to see you. Hi, how are you?
It's good to be seeing again. And to our Facebook family, those of you that are able to join in, we appreciate you spending your lunch break with us. You know, on the campus of 5508, the THOP Collaborative Co-working and Exchange, we have been doing lunch and learn for a number of years. Well, Dana, this is kind of lunch and learn today with our radio show.
Definite. We'll have some fun doing a couple of little interactive items, and maybe some of your Facebook family will actually chime in and send us a question or two.
Oh, we're being brave today. Well, it's a good thing I got my assistant here. But there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on in the world. Our show is here to bring information that's going to help you. Dana and I were talking about Zooming our businesses and trying to navigate around this new norm of how we are communicating. But you know what? There's some fun things that you can do while Zooming. I know personally, I have, and I've shared this before, attended quite a few Zooming parties. Some have just been hilarious. But now I'll give a shout out to Melanie Bloom, the Glam Kitchen. And I believe now it's been about 7 weeks that Melanie has begun her Glam Kitchen cooking show. And we don't do it via Zoom, but we do it live on Facebook. And we cook along with her. And that's what I mean about there are just some fun things that you can do. I guess we could do it on Zoom. Yeah, she could do it on Zoom. But the selected platform was Facebook Live. But Dana, you've had some experience with navigating around Zoom. As a matter of fact, you're teaching small businesses like myself. You are also the go-to person for some of our churches and just small businesses trying to figure out how to stay connected with their customers, their fans, their target audience. So that
Definitely.
being said, what are some of these fun things you are thinking about sharing with us today, Dana?
Well, fun. I've done a number of fun things. In all actuality, I've participated in a birthday party, and everybody had their own glass of wine and took turns saluting the birthday person, which was a
Oh,
lot of
beautiful.
that was fun. There were like 40, 50 people on the screen, and everyone had something positive to say about their first encounter with this particular person, and everybody would then toast. I've also had, and this will kind of relate to what you were just describing, Cheryl. We've also been meeting with one of Kevin's cousins, who is, of course, staying safe at home with her 4 children. And
Oh,
we
bless.
literally cooked the exact same thing at the same time.
What?
Yeah, and then sat down and had dinner.
And all of this is on Zoom.
Yeah, it's been great. It's been great.
So was that like a real shortcut meal, or were you zooming
It
for
was.
what, two
We
hours?
did something simple, although I need to definitely join you with Reverend Blue's wife soon to get some additional recipes. But we did something simple like pasta.
Okay.
And you know I'm not the best cook, but I did also share one recipe with her. We made a sweet potato casserole together.
Now that is your specialty.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. And to our Facebook audience, these are some things that Dana is going to share with us. So listen, make the most of what's happening today, and your backdrop says it all. Just be positive and find some things that you can do that bring a smile to your face. And I know when I took my sister that meal last week, oh, she was excited. And so
It,
that made me happy too.
yeah, it looked delicious. I definitely
Was
have to join
delicious.
you all.
It was delicious. It was more than we could have handled, my husband, but it was delicious. And I'm looking forward to it. Matter of fact, I'll put it out there. And Lady Blue, if you're looking, tell us what we're going to be cooking tomorrow. And I
Mm-hmm.
may have to miss tomorrow's cooking because BWBOEE, Black Women Executives and Entrepreneurs, will be hosting their very first via Zoom tabletop discussions. So
That
that's
sounds
going to be exciting. And I thought, wow, will I have time to finish the recipe and then jump on and do what I need to do for that presentation? Haven't figured it all out yet, but in case I miss it, I'm certainly going to, and if Lady Blue is listening, let us know what the recipe is and we will share it. And towards the end of our show, we'll talk a little bit about BWBOEE because we conferred with you, the expert. And that's what's having you on the show is so important so that small business can see you can still function.
definitely can. There are
What
so many ways that you can use these platforms to continue in business. You know, to your point, I'm a teacher by trade. So it's been interesting to find that so many of my clients who traditionally have me in front of them or in front of their particular students or employees have actually started going, well, you know, we still need the training, so let's just do it remotely. And it's worked out
awesome.
really well.
Well, looking at you and your backdrop, I mean, it says you are a teacher. There's your blackboard. So you're there with your twos. As a teacher would, there's a positive message, and you certainly look the part. So you talked about a cook along on Zoom.
Yes.
What are some of the other things that you have shared with some of your customers or just experience
Sure.
using Zoom?
Yeah. Great question. One of the things that I found that most people are intrigued about, to your point, Cheryl, is the virtual background. So that's usually the first question. Well, how did you get that? Show me how to do that. So the nice thing again about the virtual background is, and I think we talked about it just a wee bit last week, is that you don't have to be terribly concerned with what room you're in because the virtual background allows you to sort of hide, if you would, the things that might be behind you.
Yes.
So no one knows that I'm in the kitchen but you and I.
Oh, that's great. That's great. I need to in the kitchen, not in the kitchen, in your office, in your TV room.
That's right.
It doesn't matter.
Doesn't
And listen, Dana, even then, if you're not ready to come camera live, and I'm gonna throw my siblings under the bus. I think we're just about getting to a Zoom meeting. Half were good with it, the other half simply were not. And I said, listen, you guys, you can put a profile picture up, you can do a background. And is it any way, let's see, are you able to show us how to switch those screens up so that for those that this is just so foreign to maybe individuals who are listening to us?
Definitely.
I've seen you do it in a matter of seconds.
In a matter of seconds. That's true. So the neat thing about the virtual backgrounds, to your point, Cheryl, is that when you look at the bottom of your screen, and I'm of course participating in your meeting, so you'll have to enable my ability to share my screen a little bit.
Okay.
But for nice is if you go to the video start button, there is a small arrow next to it, and you click on it, and you simply choose the option virtual background. And then it brings you to this nifty little dialog box, and you simply just change your location, or perhaps you change your mood, right?
I love that one.
And this was appropriate for today because, as you know, that's right, we're doing the launch over at Cape Canaveral.
That is absolutely beautiful. And so apropos, timely, doesn't matter what we're discussing, you're able to take us there.
Correct. So whatever works for the moment. Whatever works for the moment.
We're in Florida.
Yes.
Ricky, are you able to see this? I wanted Ricky to see this beautiful beach you've got. I mean, it looks so real.
Yeah, it's video. So you can use videos as well as stills.
Duh, y'all, it's video.
Yeah, I know. It takes you there, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, and this is where I'm going to ask you, because graduations have been postponed. Have you participated in a Zoom graduation, or what suggestions or ideas could you share that may help, or could we then send a parent to you and say what they can do to help that graduate have a successful celebration, even if it's on the front lawn, or you convert your garage, or you make it look like you're in some fabulous venue.
That's right. So all they really need is a good picture of whatever that destination might be, including, maybe some, excuse me, one of the rooms in one of the schools. What do they call those, commencement locations?
Or exactly.
Or USF, I think they happen to hold a number of commencements, right, on the campus. So yeah, you're absolutely right.
I didn't get to see one, but I did read an email that they were doing one.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to check in to make sure that our Facebook, I think we kind of lost them for a minute there. So come back to our Facebook viewers. Look like I think our system switched out on us.
Yeah, so any backdrop will do. Any still, there may be a few pictures of family, perhaps. Maybe a picture. I helped someone do it was like a memory lane type of a thing for a commencement exercise once. And we had pictures of him. He was a football player in college. And we had pictures of him from when he was just a little tight in the little league, or whatever they call it. My husband would laugh at me if he heard me call it that, but it was just very progressive. And so we put it all in a PowerPoint presentation. And
that's what I was going to ask you. So you can do a slideshow.
That's exactly right. And then you can use your slideshow right next to your video while you're here in Zoom.
Now, are they doing all of that in where it says, what is that feature? Are you into another feature where you're sharing a screen, or just letting that play behind you?
This would just play behind me, but because if you're right, if I could take a PowerPoint presentation, I could preserve it as a video. You can do that. You can convert a PowerPoint presentation into a video and then preserve your here in your virtual background. Yeah, it's a great idea.
So you've got 50 people on the Zoom, and if you're in gallery, like we are to our audience, we're in gallery. So if a
Mm-hmm.
fourth person joins us, it will actually proportionately size the screen for us all the way down to 100 people or whatever
Right,
your Zoom gives you the capability of
right.
utilizing. But that being said, so all of the people will still be visible while we're watching the slideshow, or you put the slideshow in the primary screen
Yeah,
of the speaker so that
right.
they have the prominent space.
Correct. And depending on the size of your monitor, you can see fewer or more people. So, for example, I'm using just a 15-inch, pardon me, laptop, but I happen to
Okay.
have a really large monitor next to me. So if you're engaged in one of those parties, like I described a little earlier, and there are 40 people in the meeting room, you can see a lot more people than you could if you had a 15-incher.
Isn't that something? Yeah, and that's cool. So let me ask you, Dana, if we have multiple people viewing
Mhm.
and you and I can talk, and as I'm looking at the Zoom screen, my image is highlighted. And one
Yes.
of the features, even if Zoom picks up on your voice, you could just
Right.
cough. It'll highlight that screen as well. Once it hears that voice, it
Mhm.
lets the users or the viewers know who's speaking.
Right.
So
Right.
share with our audience if there are multiple people so that 50 people are not trying to speak at one time. There's a little feature that they're able to turn on to say, I have a question.
Yes. You are correct. In the participants panel, there should be at the very bottom for anyone who's joining a meeting to raise their hand. They can lower their hand once they're done. And of course, they can even flag you and tell you things like slow down. I've had that happen maybe once or twice in a little training session. Move too
Okay.
fast, or raise your volume, or whatever the case may be. Definite.
Oh, and speaking of, because as you're talking, I'm kind of hoovering around my taskbar down here
Mm-hmm.
and spoken like a true teacher. You mentioned participants panel, and I'm
Yes.
looking, and so I see, and I'm there, there's participants. And next to that, I see a chat icon,
Mm-hmm.
and voila,
Yes,
there
that's right.
is a message.
I see from Daryl or from someone in the studio.
I clicked that on. I'm looking at a live message here. That's pretty cute.
It's cute.
That's pretty cool. So I'm listening to our engineer let us know. So I think that's cool. Even though we're in various parts of the city, we're having our show. You're training us, and I'm actually communicating with someone else at the same time.
Right.
And I wanted to ask you. You showed us how, or you were telling us, and I'll let you complete that. I got tickled when I saw this chat. How we can have our voices heard or be seen.
Definite. Well, the chat is a great way to communicate with any host of any meeting without being disrupted. So if you have something that you want said, just the way that Daryl or Anna did it just a second ago, they can definitely use the chat. And then if you're the host and they only want to chat with you, they can specify that the chat is private, just between you and them. Or
Oh,
if they'd like to actually share a piece of information with everyone.
now that's a great point.
Great
So
point.
then that takes us to the chat.
Yes.
Let's talk about that feature.
All
Since
right.
someone's chatting with me right now.
Definite. One of the things that I've been able to use in the chat, in addition to just kind of sending a private message, and you know, Cheryl, that we participate in Toastmasters meetings. So the Talk of 5508, which is our Toastmasters club, we have moved to virtual online meetings as well, and we're using Zoom. So I will use it sometimes to ask someone if they would be the vote counter privately, just so that I'm
Okay.
not disrupting anyone else. But we've also been using it for casting votes for the best table topic speaker.
Oh, I love that. And listen, let's take this opportunity as a Toastmaster to share with our audience. They can join Toastmasters and learn how to, just as if you were perfecting your communication skills, this is just another modality for it. And having you and Kevin as the experts, you all are just going to have us so sharp after this, even beyond this pandemic, because what I'm hearing now from some of the experts is live presentations and events versus virtual presentations and events is going to be here to stay.
I think you're right. I think you're right. I think a lot of organizations are probably going to discover, well, we could probably let a few people continue to work from home. It's productive.
I'll give you a perfect example, but then we'll come back to the chat. I was talking to one of my colleagues, and their office is in a big corporate major building, and they utilize 7 floors. And as a result of the pandemic, everyone was working from home, except for some key positions, especially in that technical arena. And now they're thinking, we don't need 7 floors anymore. Look, we don't need 5 floors. We don't even need 4 floors.
Just one will do.
That's going to, so the pandemic has truly, truly impacted the way we do business, but it's going to also affect that bottom line when you start looking at your overhead expenses.
Yeah, completely. And not to mention, with someone like me, for example, since I travel quite a bit, although most of my trips are usually by flight, but locally, the cost of the production, right? The mileage reimbursement, all of that. Absolutely. Bottom line, you're right.
And you're not on the plane.
That's right.
You're there with my BFF. Hey, Kevin Jenkins. Listen, so now we're on to the chat.
Yes. So the other component that I really like about the chat, and I've had an opportunity to do this on a number of occasions, including with Toastmasters, is file sharing. So just imagine you're in a meeting room with 20 people and someone says, well, I didn't get the agenda. Or someone says, well, could you send me that spreadsheet or give me that PDF? You can actually upload a file right there in the chat area, and then everyone in the meeting can have access to the file without you having to leave the meeting and use Outlook. So it makes it very convenient.
Well, this is an interactive show today. It's Let's Talk Business with SJC. First, we want to thank all of you for tuning in. For those, we are doing the show from Zoom, but we are also doing Facebook Live. And I want to just say a shout out to those individuals that are joining us. I wanted to see if there was a question while I have you here. It's just telling us. Okay, so hey, hello, Artesia. Hello, another Toastmaster. I love the way our community is supporting each other as we navigate through this new way of doing business, new way of hosting your talk show. So I've opened up my chat. I've opened up my chat screen, and I can see that. So I'm communicating with our engineer.
Yes. And
you mentioned that from here, I can actually upload a file.
Yes.
So I'm there, and I can see I'm typing my message. And at the same time, I can type it privately. Yes. Oh, I see a file icon. So that's kind of like attach your file.
That's it.
Well, then let me ask you.
Wherever your file is.
Yeah, knowing where that is. You better hope it's on your laptop. You better hope it's on whatever device you're using in your Zoom.
Or maybe your cloud storage. Yeah. Like your Dropbox, or you can have access to that too.
Well, that's true. Any of those cloud-based type of systems, because I've got a desktop, the laptop, and the mobile device. So depending upon which one of those platforms you're using or devices you're using, so instantaneously you can update that to a particular person or to the entire group.
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, let me ask you this. So we're in a chat.
Yes.
What are the other options? The waiting room.
Yes.
If we're in the waiting room and we're having this conversation and somebody says, oh, I didn't see that memo, then how do we bring that same device into the waiting room? Or is all of this all in the same?
Well, in all actuality, the waiting room is kind of your holding place.
Yes.
So you're not actually in the meeting if you're in the wait room. And Diva J alluded to a way that she uses the weight room, if I remember last week, when one is trying to maybe join a Bible study at her church. You mentioned times, she lets them kind of wait in the waiting room, or if they're having difficulty with their conversation, they forget to mute their mic, or they, become a little bit unruly, kind of disrupted. You can also put people back in the waiting room. So it is kind of like a timeout.
Are you able to share data while you're transfer files, upload files while you're in the waiting room?
No, you can't, but you can actually customize the wait room with your own custom welcome message, like, stand by, the meeting attendant might admit you shortly, or welcome to, let's talk business with
what's happening.
So here's your logo. So you can add all types of information in that particular area, but you can't necessarily share a document that way. But that's a great idea. Maybe the folks at Zoom will implement that particular suggestion. I think that's a great idea.
Well, I'm glad we're having this question, because that's one of the things that we were thinking of. Like, we wanted to post in an event, and we'll talk about that a little later, that's happening soon. Okay, see, I'm understanding how this works. This has been great. So what we're going to do, because we are Zooming, we're going to go ahead and take a station break so that we can hear from the sponsors that sponsor all our shows. So a shout out to In Touch News. Dana, we're going to be on standby, and so we'll be muted for a moment until we are back on the air. For those who are joining us on Facebook, we'll just wave at you for now. So back in a moment.
Kubo, what have you got planned for today?
Come on, this way.
Adventure can be found anywhere, but the best place to start is in the forest.
It's the most powerful magic there is.
Head outside to discover incredible animals.
Wow.
And beautiful plants that come together to create an unforgettable adventure. So grab your loved ones and explore a world of possibilities. Visit discovertheforest.org to find the closest forest or park to you. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the U.S. Forest Service.
My teacher said that we should have a plan in case of an emergency. Do we have one?
First thing I'm going to do is grab a flashlight with dead batteries.
I'm going to start randomly throwing clothes in the bag. You two will be hiding in the closet and Dad won't be able to find you.
And that's when we both start crying.
Uncontrollably. Can you pass the cutlets?
Winging it is not an emergency plan. Make sure your kids know what to do during an emergency. Who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Search Ready Kids at nyc.gov or call 311. Brought to you by the New York City Office of Emergency Management and the Ad Council.
This is Mario Andretti. You know me as a race car driver, but I'm also a Meals on Wheels volunteer. I've raced against the sport's biggest personalities, but I've never met more vibrant, amazing people than the seniors served by Meals on Wheels. You can make a difference by dropping off a hot meal and saying a quick hello. So, America, let's do lunch. Volunteer your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org.
This message brought to you by Meals on Wheels America and the Ad Council.
People been saying to your friend, get a different face, and posting on their feed, they're super ugly. The things they say to them online are cruel and they're not true. So tell your friend, I'll stand up for you. Don't worry, I know what to do.
Know someone being bullied online? You can be a witness and make a difference by letting the world know it isn't cool, and by letting your friend know you care. Learn more at eyewitnessbullying.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Welcome to Calvin's Barbershop.
You all got to see this.
I don't even want to know what you're looking at on that phone.
Well, you should. I was learning about the dangers of high blood pressure and that we need to get ours checked regularly. High blood pressure can increase the risk of heart attack or stroke, but this text program can help keep it at a healthy range. Just text Barbershop to 97779 to sign up.
I'll get right on it as soon as I'm done with this baby panda video.
Text Barbershop to 97779. A message from the American Heart Association and the Ad Council.
It's important to plan ahead for emergencies, like the storm. When it kicked in, we had a plan.
Separated.
We were able to get in touch with each other in no time.
Idea how to find each other.
The whole experience was fine.
Was the most frightening 10 hours of my life.
If there's one piece of advice I'd offer other moms out there, it's to stay calm and keep to the plan.
Message.
Some parents plan ahead, some don't. Make sure you know where to find your family in an emergency. Start your plan at ready.gov. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
So much for tuning back in to Let's Talk Business with SJC. It is the 4th hour of our show, and you all were waiting to hear us talk about fashions today so that we would be all up in your fashion business. And our diva had a family emergency, so she is not with us today. So certainly they are in our thoughts and prayers. To those of you who have joined us on Facebook and you're taking your lunch break with us, we thank you so much. We appreciate you. If you have a question for Dana, you may go ahead and post that question on our Facebook Live, and we will certainly communicate that with her. Now, Dana, before we broke for commercial, my button says I've enabled, I don't know if that's the right terminology, but it's giving me the green light to share a screen. What I noticed was coming up was sharing my own desktop. So I was certainly trying to kill that screen.
Yes. So are you able to share now? No, you have the ability to share, obviously, as a host, but then you also have in your meeting setup to enable or disable participants from sharing. And this is actually the first time that I haven't been able to share my screen, but yeah.
Exactly. So I'm wondering what changed.
So probably somewhere in the meeting setup that the participants are disabled here. And I'm merely a participant today, so I can't share my screen.
Oh, and that's where we have all of our fabulous, so we just need to either go back into our settings, and right. I'm hoping I can do this while we're actually engaging in a conversation so that you can share your slides. Obviously, one of the things about Zoom, it gives you the capability of staging the criteria that you want to establish for your meeting, as from muting to sharing information, how you want to do it. And so I'm looking for that to see.
If you're able to go to your advanced settings, you should actually find it in the meeting preferences. So if you open the criteria for that particular meeting, scroll down. Yeah, there is an actual option to allow sharing.
Yeah, I'm looking for that. What I did do was I went over into security, and underneath there is an option that says allow participants to share the screen, share the chat, rename themselves. So see if you can share now.
No.
Okay, because we did select that, and it says that you can share screen.
You got it. You found it. So here's a quick share, and I don't know if you can see it or not, but I am sharing my screen, and it's the PowerPoint slide that I created a little bit earlier, just to kind of give you a screenshot as to what the virtual background switch looks like.
Okay, well, what's interesting is, and I'm sure it's coming up on my laptop, but I can actually see it on the Facebook Live. So you keep moving, you keep going. My system will catch up with you shortly.
Okay, I got you. So in essence,
amazing technology.
The point that you were describing earlier and how I'm able to switch my virtual background sort of on the fly.
Yes.
Yeah, this is the interface. This is the dialog box that we were describing a little bit earlier. And as you'll notice, at the very bottom, there are a number of virtual backgrounds that come with your Zoom account, like that gorgeous San Francisco Golden Gate Bridge, and that little stratosphere image that we talked about before, not to mention this terrific beach scene that I'm currently using. And so you simply just click on the one that you want, and then it switches live. So during Toastmasters, for example, we use this to actually keep up or help the timer keep track of how much time has passed in a speaker's speech. with like we do in our formal meeting, Cheryl, with the cards, we have green when you reach whatever that 1 minute happens to be with table topics, and 1.5 is yellow, and then finally red means it's time to stop. So we actually have sets of color images that we use for the same purpose. So that's the virtual background dialog box. And you'll see on the left-hand side, that's a quick way of changing a lot of your settings on the fly.
I see.
Yeah, I use a lot of these for the video. Yeah, I use a lot of them for the video options or the audio options, because depending on what happens. For example, I have 3 different microphones at my disposal. So if one doesn't work, I can switch it. Yeah, I can switch it. So one of the things that we definitely want to encourage everyone to do, last week we talked about the importance of testing, but this week we want to just make sure that you're comfortable with commanding all of these controls. So once you become better acquainted with where you can and where you can't make changes during a meeting, that's kind of that impromptu talent that all Toastmasters have.
Yes, that's true. Well, since you brought that up, and listen, for those of you that are joining us on Facebook, because Dana is sharing some great information that's going to help you with your business, and not even with your business, it's going to, or you will find that this is going to be very beneficial in just communicating with family and friends. So please be sure and share, like, and share. Dana's contact information will be provided in our thank you post after the show. And I can see it's interesting that Facebook Live is running smoothly, and all of a sudden I can see some delays on the actual device itself. So that we can get to, so you walked us through some of the little perks that we can take advantage of as a beginner in understanding, how to set your meetings up. What are some of those key components you want to make sure those switches are on? But we did learn that you can allow a participant to share a screen without going back to the general meeting session. So that's right there under the security button. Another little quick reference to talk to us and about the importance of the chat and communicating with individuals privately. Look for the button that says privately, so that message only goes to that person and not everybody on your Zoom.
That's true.
That was a great point. How we can make these interactions and just really relax and have fun with them. But I'm going to go back to a point you gave us last week, and that was mind your
mic.
There you go.
There you go.
Absolutely. Still be professional, have some fun, but if you're on your business Zoom, mind your mic.
Absolutely. By all means. The microphone is a silent but deadly factor in any, I think, meeting. If you really stop to think about it, whether you're in person or otherwise, if you have a microphone on, it's very easy to forget that you are live somewhere, so to speak. Someone's recording whatever the conversation may be. So to your point, I highly recommend, after testing it, make sure that you know how to mute and then how to unmute.
Now, before we move on to our next subject, we were talking about people in the waiting room, and so we're not able to upload a document, but you can upload your graphic, and maybe on that same screen, if you wanted to ask your guests some questions, maybe you can throw those questions in that image and then upload the image. So there's your sponsor information, because we were thinking that the waiting room is a good way for us to feature our sponsors, hear a little bit about the sponsors.
Yeah, definitely.
Now that you talked about the microphone, while the guests are in the waiting room, can the host mute them, or is that a feature that has to be muted from their device?
Well, the feature for muting, of course, especially during the actual meeting, is in the meeting. So if you're in the wait room, you don't really have to mute them at all, because you can't hear them. But you do have an option, and you can see yours in your toolbar, Cheryl. you have an option that's called a breakout room.
Awesome.
So for classes, for example, sometimes if I give an assignment and I want to put one group together apart from another, that's a fantastic tool. And it's also extremely handy for small group sessions at church. So one meeting can be taking place, but they could have several different separate small group conversations. And only those participants in the breakout room will hear the conversation in the breakout room. And then when you're ready to bring everybody back together again, you simply close the breakout room and everybody comes back to the normal meeting.
Oh, now that's a great feature.
A great feature.
And a great training tool as well.
Yes.
So there's just so much that you can help us with, but we want to go back now and certainly look at the topics that we wanted to cover today. But before we do that, and we've asked for those that are tuning in, even if you are viewing this video at a different time of day that's convenient for you, because of the content, because of us having Dana here to help us learn more about Zoom and what we can do, whether business or family or personal, please like and share the video, because we want to make sure that all of us are learning together. It's not as difficult as most people think, and try it out. It's a great way for families to come together. So I wanted to say, please share our video and like the page. But Dana, would you go ahead and let our audience know how they can contact you?
Absolutely. So you can find us online, of course. dkconsulting.net is our web address. You can email me directly at djenkins, D as in Dana, Jenkins like George Jenkins of Publix, at dkconsulting.net. Or you can actually reach us by phone, 813-230-4613. So we're always around somewhere.
She is, even if she's on the beach.
That's right. This is doing something to me. I think it's going to put me to sleep. I'm going to have to have a nap after the show.
But actually, it's really nice. And you're going to be able to share some things with us, so it'll change momentarily.
Yes.
One of the topics we wanted to talk about today, this is our hot topic.
Mm-hmm.
And the controls. And even though we went through quite a few of these,
we did.
But let's make sure that we've covered them all.
Okay. Let's do it.
Go.
Okay, so here, let me share one more screen with you. I think that might be just a quick little snapshot. I thought it might be helpful if you and I covered these.
Okay.
So this is just a quick little snapshot of all of the key buttons that you and I have discussed, Cheryl. Of course, on the far left-hand side, we talked about the importance of being able to find and know exactly how to mute and unmute.
Yes.
We also have that stop and start video, which is terribly helpful. I can't tell you how frequently, if someone walks in or if you have to look at your phone and you're being recorded, it's really important to remember that you are on camera. Or if I read an article recently, and it was a hilarious article, but sometimes when people are in a meeting, and unfortunately, and this is a team dynamics thing, but if you're in a meeting and there are 10, 12, or 15 of you on this meeting, and you just have this urge to roll your eyes or put your hand on your face, turn off your video, because everybody can see your video. So stop and start your video. Remember, if you've added a picture of yourself, like Cheryl and I have talked about, as part of your profile, when you stop your video, your profile picture will sit there instead, which is great. So one can still see what you look like, if you will, kind of like what we're doing with Daryl's snapshot. So kind of keep that in mind. Please remember that you can stop that video. It's not a big deal. Just remember that you can. In the center, of course, you and I have talked briefly about the participants panel. That's a nice feature to have because it allows, of course, your participants to feel like they're engaged. They too can see all of the other participants. And of course, we know that they can then raise their hand. You mentioned the security item too, Cheryl, a couple of seconds ago.
Yes.
Security is great because then you can turn things off and on. If you have not preset them at the beginning including moving people out of the room back into the weight room if you needed to. And you can have a preset, believe it or not, that will not allow somebody to join the meeting if they're being disruptive. And I think a lot of the school systems throughout the country have actually been able to use or leverage that particular tool during these episodes of, again, what they like to refer to as Zoom bombing. Someone who was not invited kind of drops into your meeting. So, which brings me to another point. Remember that when you have a Zoom account, free or otherwise, you are issued what's called a personal identification number, a personal meeting number.
Yes. Yes.
So keep that personal number personal. Don't share it with anyone, because someone can inadvertently, they're hackers all over the place. They can inadvertently either start a meeting on your behalf or jump into your meeting if they know your personal ID number. One of the easiest ways to work around that is every single time that you want to host a meeting, go ahead and generate a new number as opposed to utilizing the one that's assigned to you by default.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because I'm sitting here looking at the invitation that I send out to all of the participants for the show. And as with any invitation, it's right there. But right. I did notice today, and I thought that's what made it unique, because you can establish the show as a recurring entity. That's but right. I did see that there was an option to generate that. So that's now that's the tip of the day right there.
That's a great security feature. And again, the folks at Zoom have been updating. They've sent out so many updates over the past couple of months because of some of their security holes or flaws. And it's really, really helped a lot, helped immensely.
Awesome. Now that's a great point. Security, cyber security. What's next?
The polls. We talked about chat, but the polls are a great way to make sure that your participants have an opportunity to interact with you. So for example, in Toastmasters, a lot of times we can actually use the polls to ask the table topic questions if we wanted to, or we could actually create a poll and actually list each speaker and then let all of the participants pick one of the names, one of the answers as an answer, so to speak. And then that way they could vote like a ballot. So you, Cheryl, could include polls at the end of each of your Zoom shows with your participants and asking them things like, well, would you recommend this? Or would you like to come on again?
Now, what let's see, let's go back to the polls.
Yeah.
And so what header is that under, Dana?
Sure. So you will have the polls as the host, of course, on your actual meeting tab. So you can click on it and it simply launches a little dialog box. And then you can create your own questions and you can dictate whether or not those responses are either multiple choice or single answer responses. And you can even set them up so that, one can actually type in a response as opposed to picking from a list, if that makes sense.
That's a great feature. We were in a meeting yesterday, and that's what one of our participants wanted to know. I had not come across that, but then I've only been kind of skimming the surface, just doing enough to get back through the show.
Yeah, you've been busy. Yeah, it's tough to completely triple multitask. What's a triple task? I don't even want to call it multitasking when it comes to a meeting. So it's not a bad idea to actually encourage or have somebody as kind of your assistant or your sidekick, and just label them as a co-host. So in your case, for example, Cheryl, you could go over to Daryl's name and actually promote the position from participant to co-host.
All in the same area.
Same area.
Well, that's good to know, because with technology and all of our devices in multiple locations, you may have a problem with connectivity. That's and right. I remember about 3 shows ago with Dr. Davis last month, right. when I wasn't able to get back into Zoom. Right. And so I remember seeing that feature, an alternative co-host, but you actually have to go back and change that in the settings. You can't just add it.
No, actually you could. You can elevate someone to a co-host even if they don't necessarily have their own Zoom
account.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, well, I'm glad, because I remember when we tried that, it said the person didn't have an account. So We'll figure that out after the show, or I'll have you walk me through that, because we decided that would be a good feature to have, your co-host, also the co-host technically in the Zoom, on the Zoom platform. So that's double coverage.
Definitely. So there's a difference between an alternative host versus a co-host. A co-host is live during the actual meeting. An alternative host, to your point, yes, they have to have a subscription in order for you to identify them as such.
Okay, so then that takes care of command the controls, and I love the way you set the screen up.
Yeah, I just wanted to give you a couple tips.
Friendly.
I like the little buttons. Yeah, we can't forget the record.
You just can't click them.
That's right. That's right.
Also, I picked up on the colors too.
Yeah, absolutely. Purple and green. Yeah, purple and green.
Number 2, build your profile.
Yes, for sure. So one of the things you want to do, even if you have, and I highly recommend it if you can, go ahead and get a subscription. You don't necessarily have to have a subscription in order to join someone's meeting, right? So if someone sends you a link, you can definitely join a meeting without having a subscription, but I highly recommend that you do. And if you sign up for a subscription, go ahead and add a profile, add a picture of yourself, so that when you join another meeting, to our earlier point, if you need to turn off your video, at least your picture will display. If you don't have a picture up, it will definitely display your name. And as a host, you even have the ability to dictate whether or not someone who doesn't have a video can be hidden during a meeting, which is nice.
All right, I appreciate that. Well, listen, you have just been great. We said at the offset that you had so much information, and we look forward to Dana having you come back very, very soon. I did want to do an announcement for BWBOEE invites you to join us for Table Talk Thursdays. And tomorrow will be the first installation, actually the inaugural tabletop discussion. So we will share this information with our thank you post, but it will be a tabletop discussion on Zoom for Black business owners, executives, and entrepreneurs. As we come to the end of our show, a special shout out to In Touch News, to our team, Daryl and Anna. Thank you so much. To our Facebook family, we appreciate all of you that took the time and decided to have lunch with us. And we'll talk to you guys in just a moment. But for our Zoom and our broadcast, remember, please like the page, share the video, so that when you're zooming the right way. Dana has walked us through just some important pieces to help you understand what you're doing. But my favorite is mind the microphone, MIC, mind the mic. Control. Know what the controls are. And you'll be better at Zooming, and hopefully nothing will catch you by surprise. And so to all of you, we say thank you. We're going to sign off of Zoom. Let's Talk Business with SJC. My co-host today, actually standing in, Dana Holmes Jenkins. Thank you so much, Dana.
Thank you for having me, Cheryl.
All right, it's a wrap.